As the coronavirus continues to spread across the world, countries are closing their borders to travellers. Alec Playford was on holiday in Poland when he heard the borders were due to close. He's now made it back to the UK, but it wasn't easy. He joins me now. So Alec, it was a bit touch and go. You almost didn't make it back to the UK, but it was a bit of a last-minute trip to Poland, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we really booked it in February time. We obviously didn't realise that obviously the whole situation with coronavirus was ever going to affect us when we booked the holiday.
And at what point did you realise that it was going to be an issue for you to actually get out of Poland when it was time to?
Well, on our journey there, as we were getting a taxi from the airport, we were advised that there might be some issues with going to see any of the sort of the touristy sites, but we didn't really take anything into account. And then actually it was on that Friday evening we were out just at a bar and a club, and some girl told us that actually they were closing the borders at midnight on Saturday, and obviously our flight was on Sunday.
So it was only by chance that you actually found out this was going to happen?
Yeah, so it was actually just some random girl who actually told us this. It was quite lucky, actually. We were out at the pub at the time.
Yeah.
We didn't find out until late on that evening, and then we had to make new arrangements that morning where we were advised our flight was actually going to be cancelled as well. So we had to really get out of Poland before midnight at 12 on Saturday.
And you documented the whole sort of ordeal on Instagram. It was almost watching a film, but the wrong way round.
Responsibility of my friends rooting me on to tell me to get home. So I was quite lucky, really, to be honest. But yeah, I thought I'd keep everyone up to date with the journey.
Yeah, well, it definitely was keeping me entertained, at least. So what was the process? So you were out in a bar in Poland. You found out that you had to leave. The flight was then cancelled. You had to sort of get on the rail network, didn't you?
Well, yeah. So we went to the train station. We knew the airport would be an absolute nightmare. We did actually meet a couple as well who were they did go to the airport and they were trying to get a train out. When we went to the train station, they told us there were no trains that were going out of Poland because they were all fully booked. We tried to get on a bus, and all the buses were fully booked as well. So there was only a chance really for one of us to get, I think, on a bus, and obviously we wanted to all stick together. So they told us, the lady at the desk, she told us to get a train to the Polish border, and literally we have to walk in to Germany over the border. That would be the only way we could get out of the country before midnight that evening.
And that was the countdown, wasn't it? That at midnight, that's when the borders were due to close. So what did it feel like? Because obviously you were, it was a last-minute getaway. You were hopefully looking for, a relatively cheap city break sort of thing with your mates. But what did it sort of change into?
Well, I think it's sort of at the time when it's sort of our flight was cancelled, it was almost a bit like, we're going to have to get a new flight, and obviously we are going to have to call the holiday early. So it did sort of always seem a bit sort of funny, but then obviously it sort of hit us when we were told, we actually might have the chance of not being able to leave the country. And obviously me and my friends, we will have jobs in England, and we will have to make sure we're back for them. And they're telling us they're going to close the borders for 10 days minimum. Obviously we were absolutely desperate to sort of get out, really. So it was a bit sort of like just book what we can just to get out as soon as possible, really.
And how much did it end up costing you, your escape from Poland?
I think, fortunately for the Polish rail, it's actually not too as expensive as England, but I think in total it came to about £180, which is not actually too bad considering hopefully we'll get the money back from our previous flight, which was meant to be on Sunday.
Mm. And if you had to stay in Poland for that sort of 10-day lockdown, what do you think you might have done?
Well, I think obviously, the Airbnb, I don't think we'd be able to stay in Airbnbs, which is what we were staying in, because obviously that would have been quite expensive. Obviously, we would have been missing out on work as well. I assumed we were planning on going to a hostel and staying out there for the remaining days. I mean, all bars and clubs were closed. Only thing that was open was shops, so it really would have been just sitting in the room and staying in a hostel, really.
And you mentioned earlier that coronavirus didn't really seem that much of a big deal when you were actually planning your trip. How does that compare to now the state of what we're going through in the UK? Because we aren't taking as severe steps as the rest of Europe are.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it was when we booked the trip, it wasn't a massive deal in Krakow or in Poland for coronavirus, and it didn't seem like it was a big issue, but as soon as we went over there, I think they tried to cut it out as soon as possible. Whereas obviously England, I think we seem a bit more lenient about it. So really, I mean, it's either you go full out and commit to it and just completely cut out the public and all sort of public events, or it does seem like a bit of a chance really with England.
Well, Alec, I'm sorry that your holiday ended in such a way, but I'm glad you're back home safe. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.